You're down in a motel room at Orlando now?
Working on the Mecum Auto Auctions classic
Yeah,
car auction.
yeah.
But yeah, I had my first flight in 5 months, and I was working the strengthening exercise like crazy since probably the middle of last week.
Yeah.
And I was taking kind of everything into account because I've got notes on top of notes. I've read your book like 3 times.
Yeah.
And I was talking to my wife, and I said, okay. I said, none of this makes any sense because I said, think of it. I can't walk in a plane, but I can walk in a train, and that's more bumpy. Captain Tom told me that. And I went through like 2 or 3 different things, and I said, none of it's consistent. It's only bad when it's on an airplane.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
said, I'm overthinking this. I said, you know what? I'm just going to get on this flight and tell myself, screw it. Whatever happens, happens. I really felt like I kind of recommitted, like you said at the end of the book,
Yeah.
even if it should commit. I thought I did before, but I really did this time.
Yeah. Good.
And so I'd taken all that into account. I was just like, I would rather actually have a panic attack and say that I committed than I would sit here and build it up into something in my mind. And it worked. It really worked. Tell me what you think of this, because this was very weird, but it's worked in more than one occasion. I was out in Denver last year, and I was doing one of those climbing walls. And I got about 15 feet up, and
Mm-hmm.
I froze, totally froze.
Mm-hmm.
And so I told the lady who was holding the
Mm-hmm.
cable, I said, I'm going to drop on purpose because that's what scares me. I said, I'm just going to let go if it's okay with you.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, yeah, sure. So I just fell back off the wall. Why do you suppose that pushing right into that alarm tends to fix it? Like when I let go of the climbing wall, why do you think that whenever I kind of like is it the commitment factor that's ending those stress hormones that I go,
Well,
okay, I'm going?
It could be because people sometimes say, how come I can get on a motorcycle and go 80 miles an hour or do rock climbing, whatever, or ski like an idiot? Well, what happens is that when you're doing something like that, you have to make decisions again and again and again and again. Like if you're rock climbing, you got to figure, okay, I got to put my hand up there, and then after I've decided I want to do that, I got to go for it. When you make the commitment, the prefrontal cortex sends a message to the amygdala that says, shut the hell up, don't bother me. Because the last thing I want when I'm in the middle of reaching for that thing is you say, you shouldn't be doing this, you're going to die. No, yeah. So you say, shut the hell up.
And that's interesting, and that would explain why it has a tendency to reoccur on something like an airplane.
Yeah, you're not really committed to doing things now. I mean, you might make the commitment that I'm flying no matter what, and that helps. But moment to moment, you're not making moment to moment commitments like you are if you're on a motorcycle or on a wall.
Now, funny enough, I actually, now that you mention it, I actually did that today, and that would explain part of why. Takeoff's my hardest part. Takeoff and the initial ascent once you get up, to 39,000 or whatever. We were taking off because it was a little bumpy, and I was like, I don't care what happens. And it worked. I mean,
well, one of the things that sort of fits in here, I think, is in the Air Force when I was flying the F-100,
which is so cool, by the way, because I've been studying that stuff.
Yeah, it's like one out of 3 of the F-100s built crashed. All the pilots who flew that plane were the top pilots in the Air Force, and yet it killed over 300 pilots. The first squadron that had the F-100A, they had so many crashes in the first few weeks, they grounded the plane, went back to the drawing board, redesigned the tail.
Wow.
And then they came out with the C. I don't know what would have happened to the B. It went from the F-100A to the F-100C. But you talk about, these cars that you're going to auction off. The F-100C landed at 180 knots, which is about 205 miles an hour.
Jeez.
So what you do is you get it on the ground and you pull a handle that opens up a kind of a trap door and drops the drag chute out onto the runway, and then it blooms and slows the plane down. If you don't get a chute, you got the world's fastest tricycle. and it takes about 10,000 feet of runway, almost 2 miles to stop if you don't get a chute. If you got an 8,000 foot runway, and you don't get a chute, you're probably going to go into what they call the barrier, which is down at the far end of the runway. They got a strap that sits up about 3 feet. It's got little things to hold it up all the way across the runway. And each end of this strap is connected to a really heavy chain. So what happens if you hit that strap, your nose gear grabs that strap, and then you start pulling this chain, and the chain stops you.
Kind of like a landing on a carrier
Yeah.
ship. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But anyway, but the thing is that when you go out to fly the airplane, the last thing you do before you go out to the plane is you go to the latrine and pee. And every time I would pee, I think, well, this may be the last time I ever do this. It's just a fact of life.
Yeah.
So you walk out to the airplane and you look at this, out on the ramp, there's about 30 planes, and you realize that some of them are a bomb, that fuse is already lit, and some of them are okay. You have no idea what you've got today. You may have a bomb, you may have a good one.
Yeah.
So that's the deal. And so you've kind of already committed, you've already baked it in that you could get killed today. So that's why this thing about being up on the rock climbing you were doing today and say, oh, I'm doing it. That commitment shifts it, because you've already kind of thrown it in. I may have a panic attack. I mean, you could even think maybe the person is going to screw up and let me drop to the floor.
Yeah, exactly.
When you throw that stuff in and you do it anyway, it's like you get surprised how you're okay with it emotionally.
That's pretty awesome. It was a major breakthrough doing that. So that's pretty awesome.